So to do that, let's go ahead and make them links. So, and then we'll say color equals. Oh, so that actually we have to do something before that, which is because these ranges are creating sort of a relative variable inside them. If you want to access something at the absolute level, at the very top of the lightbox level, what you have to do is define a variable. In this case, we'll say it's top, because it sort of makes sense. And then you just say it equals dot. Right? So it equals the variable that was passed into the template. So that way, going back into this link that we're making here for the rows, or for the cells, you can say color equals top dot palette dot selected color, and that should work. And then okay, so O/A, we then need to add in the part where we actually tell what row and column was selected. So we say, and we'll name the row variable just row, obviously enough, it's easy to work with. So that's dot row, and col for column equals dot col, and that should do it. Let's go ahead and give it a try. Now, selecting these things won't actually do anything right now, but at least it should show up in the extended URL. Alright then, our update's successful, so let's go ahead and check it out on the website. Okay, it's success of sorts, right? So we got these blue circles, so we'll have to update the style sheets to get rid of that. But other than that, let's say we click on this one here. You can see, you got your color, which is nothing because I didn't select a color, but you got row 1, column 27. Perfect, right? You see, it's a user interface. So like here, blue, row 3, column 24. Wonderful. So, first things first, let's get rid of those blue circles, which we'll do by updating the style sheet. And I think the text decoration, that's the magic word to get rid of the underlines and such like for links. And color is inherit, which just says whatever the color was before it became a link, just let it stay like that, Okay, so that's good. Okay then. So we're pulling in our inputs in the website, as you can see. So we're pulling in a row of, for example, here it's 3 and a column of 24. But we're not actually doing anything with that. So to actually make that information useful in our root function, we have to use a few techniques to convert the string. So for example, if we look back here, when it reads this, it's going to read 3 as a string, not an integer. So we're going to have to take that string, convert it to an integer through the string conversion package, which is strconv. And then we're going to have to do some validation to make sure that the integer isn't a ridiculous number that's going to break our grid. And then we're going to change the color of that point. So first of all, we're going to say that row string is equal to r.form value, which again is just going to pull the row as a string, and the same for col string. Okay, so I got those as strings. To convert them to integers, we say row int, and then error form sorry about that. It's a string conversion dot atoi, which is so it's kind of a funny function name, but it's really useful. It's alpha to integer, so a for alpha, and then 2, and then I for integer. And if you want to go the other way, where you want to convert an integer into an alpha, you just do itoa. And it works really well. And what it does is it fills in the integer value of the alpha in row int, and if it breaks for some reason, because for example you have words in your integer, so you're supposed to integer, it will populate error, and if error is populated, you know it didn't work so well, and act accordingly. So we're going to call it error1 because I'm also going to do a call int and then error2 for basically the same thing with the column string. Okay, and then if error1, and then we're going to say that if there are no errors, so if error1 equals nil, or nil, and error2 equals nil, so this is just an if statement, and the double ampersand means and, basically. It's as simple as you can put it. Double pipe means or, but double ampersand means and. And so if there are no errors, and we say that rows I, or row int dot calls call int equals dot color equals selected color. And actually, let's put this after we create the grid, just so that it first it populates the Minecraft block, and then we edit it afterwards, because if we edit before and then it populates it, then it's never going to show up. So if this works correctly, it should be setting the color of that particular point that we select as the selected color. So let's give it a try. And if that works, we're going to do some further validation on the integer to make sure it's not less than 0 or greater than the size of the grid. But at that point, we're pretty much done with user input. Actually, one last thing before we try and populate it, we have to update the style sheet URL to reflect the fact that we changed the style sheet. And then let's try it out. Alright, so we're updated, so let's give it a look. Let's select a color here, yellow, why not? Notice that the style sheet went back to being all black, but despite that, these really are links here. So let's click one. Oh yeah, right? Like row 10, column 17, yellow now. Let's make it white. Now it's white. You can also see though, it's not saving the changes because we haven't implemented that memory cache system yet. Yeah, but it's looking good. Now there are some difficulties, such as, for example, suppose we had this, instead of being blue, let's say it's blue A, to get a little French. Oh, that's not really, because that's not really good French. You can see it breaks the system, right? Because this isn't an actual color, but it's trying to put it there. Now it's not actually trying to put the color there. If you look at the code is converting the blue A into nothing in our make palette, but then we're still taking, so it's taking that empty string and it's defining that as selected color. So to fix that, we're going to want to say that update this if statement to include if error1 is nil, error2 is nil, and if palette dot selected color equals nil, or equals not equal empty string. And only in that case will it actually do it. Otherwise, it'll just sort of pretend like nothing happened. Now there's another issue here, which is that, here, we'll make it yellow. Right, so we can do it all the way out here, out to row 24, column 79. But suppose we try and update that to column 80. Server error, it just broke the whole thing, which elite hackers will use to gain nefarious access to your system, possibly. So in order to validate our integers, we're going to create a new function. We'll probably call it something like validate. In fact, let's just call it that. Validate int. We're going to take in, we're going to go all the way back to the strings that we're pulling in, the row string and col string. And we're going to say number string as a string, max int as an int. And that's the maximum value that the integer can be. If it's less than that, if it's less than 0, it'll always be wrong. If it's more than that max, it'll always be wrong. And we're going to return an integer in the case that's successful. Well, in all cases, but when, and we're going to return a string, which is going to be an error string. So when it's unsuccessful, it'll probably return an integer of -1 is my guess, and a string of like didn't work, or bad or something. So we're just going to basically take this code we did here, right? The string conversion. We're going to throw it into the validate int. And then we'll just call it num int instead of row int. Number string. And if error not equal to nil, we'll just return -1 and error. And that's validation in that sense. If num int is less than 0, or I'm sorry, this is a little bit tricky because our maximum is going to be 25, but really that's 0 through 24, so it has to be or the num int is greater than or equal to max int. Return -1 error. And I could have combined those two statements, but I didn't, so it's done. Otherwise, go ahead and return num int and nil, or empty string. Okay, so that's enough to validate the integers that are passed into us. So here, instead of doing this stuff, we can just say that row int row int error1 is equal to validate int of our form value row and row count. In the same way, oops, column int is going to be doing the same with the columns. Okay, and we can get rid of this all together. So everything's in one place. The only difference is that our errors, instead of being nil, they're empty string. Okay then, so with our validation done, I feel pretty good that we've done everything we need to do to make sure the user interface is at least functioning decently. Obviously there are improvements to be made, but it's good enough for now. So let's go ahead and update the light grid and see what happens. Okay then, our update is done. Let's take a look at what we've got. Okay, refresh this. Okay, so let's try it out. So we've got yellow selected. Select a, see, it's a yellow square there. We go here, yellow square here, over here. We can stick it over there, but let's try giving it an impossible column, like column 80. It just pretends like nothing ever happened, which is exactly what we want. Of course, you can always set these things by hand, and that's fine. You know, if you feel like doing that, there's no reason to stop you about that. Just make sure that column -1 doesn't do anything. Okay, that's good. If we do 1 ASDF, it's okay as well. Alright, so yeah, it works. And if we check all the colors, so blue's fine, green's fine, red's fine. It looks like they're all okay. And so we have a user interface. And I'm extremely happy with this. Obviously it's a little bit rough, but it's going to do what we need to do, and it's going to allow you guys to use the light bright. In our next video, we're going to cover the mem cache, which is going to allow us to actually save your changes and update the board appropriately so that, you know, like, because right now we're able to change a particular pixel, but it wipes out the old change. And after the next video, you know, your changes will be saved, and everyone will be able to see the changes you make, and everyone will be able to change your changes as well. And I think that's going to be pretty neat. And I really look forward to it, and I hope that you guys watch. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe to the channel. And thank you for watching.